teachers this year who did fucked up shit from Tennessee. He abducted a 15-year-old student and he took her to California. Tennessee to California. What's the state right next to Tennessee? I was in both Bristol, Tennessee and Bristol, Virginia. It's a border town. Half of it's in Tennessee, half of it's in Virginia. That police officer who traveled from Chesapeake, Virginia, where all this shit started with Natalie and her family back in 2016, drove all the way to California to shoot a 14-year-old's parents in the fucking head and steal her. This is a male teacher and a male police officer. These are the mandated reporters we're supposed to go to when we're abused. You sick fucks. Then they say, oh, he's a former police officer. Well, of course you'd say that after he's done a thing like that. Fact is, you still hired him. Just like Boulder knowingly, willingly, and intentionally hired Waylon Lolatai, knowing what he does. Knowing that he's a bruiser, not an investigator. Knowing that he's into steroids and violence. The lady on the front of this, two of them actually. There's a bunch of women in Alaska who want a man to not run because he's a man and because he's white. Like I said, racism against white people. None of these minority groups are grateful at all for any of the white people who have fought for their rights for generations. To them, we are all the enemy. To racist hate groups like MMIP, MMIW, BLM, the KKK, ain't none of them okay.
Turn left onto 8th Street, then turn
Now one of
left
these
onto
women
Pacific Avenue.
shot a
Take the
37-year-old
next
man.
left onto Pacific Avenue.
He survived, but she also blew his 10-year-old son's head off. Killed him dead. She's still on the run. There's also another woman who's a teacher. Well, we're going to that in just a little bit. We got to make her own video. A woman who is literally torturing female students. Literally torturing them. But we're ignoring that, aren't we? We're ignoring these women who are doing these things despite the fact that they're in the news far more frequently than men. Women doing fucked up shit because she didn't get her way right when she fucking wanted it. And we got a lot of men, a whole lot of men, who are, well, for example, here in Tillamook, Oregon, they had to release 4 people from jail because of evidence tampering by the Tillamook Police Department. Meanwhile, I'm not supposed to say nothing about it. I'm also not supposed to say anything about how afraid people are here. But then again, I've got over 100 people who live in this town recorded talking about that abuse.
600 feet, turn left onto Goodspeed Place.
Talking about the drugs, talking about the fires, talking about the deaths. We've got people in this town talking about a guy named Quinn who got shot. Ashley Farnsworth talking about knowing who lit the fire down here by Lillian A. Goodspeed Park and why.
Then turn left onto 1st Street. Take the next left onto Del Monte Avenue.
Hopefully I got enough charge on my vehicle, it'll be easier to start. Hopefully it's not a coil ignition issue, because then I'm fucked.
Turn left onto First Street.
I'll have to find somebody to help me push my car. I want to make sure it doesn't overheat, and I'm not willing to go to Tillamook. What's it yet, because I got to use the fucking bathroom, and Lillian A. Goodspeed is the only place to do it. Although, I'm pretty sure it is after 10 o'clock. It's 10:07, so it's actually illegal to even be here. What the fuck are my goddamn keys? Fucking A, that'll make it difficult to turn off my car, won't it? I hope I didn't set them on top of my car and drive off, because I literally cannot turn off my car without the keys, and they kind of fall out of the ignition on their own. Thank goodness they fell into the little shift knob area. Alright. It's a tough war we're fighting. The chances of someone being asleep in porta potties are pretty good, but I gotta poop. So, I'm gonna have to find my wet wipes because I can't find my toilet paper. Wish me luck. When it comes to female predators, we've now got over 20 female teachers alone this year. Over 20 now. Only 5 men. Meanwhile, 2 of those men had sex with their students. 2 of them. 17 of those female teachers had sex with their students. The teacher here in Tillamook who was having sex with a 14-year-old student. How much time did she serve? 6 hours. I served more time than that for telling on sexual predators. I spent more time than that for telling on Robert Franklin Warnick. I spent 7 months locked up for telling on pedophiles and bad cops. This lady served 6 hours for having sex with a child. It's here in Tillamook. Hundreds of people. There are at least 100 people recorded on my channel here in Tillamook talking about how bad the cops are. Over 100 people. There's also hundreds of people on my channel talking about how they'd kill people. Yeah. And you guys pretend I'm some sort of violent fucking animal. I'm the one out here looking out for you dumbasses. And your children, you sick fucks. Who's protecting your children from the child molesters and the child abusers? That'd be me, because who's most likely to abuse your children? You. Statistically, as a parent, you are the most likely to murder your child. You're the most likely person to rape your child. You're the most likely person to molest your child. You're the most likely person to starve your child. You're the most likely person to beat your child. You're the most likely person to neglect your child. You, as a parent, are the most likely predator of your children. And as we've come to realize recently, not only are women at the top of every other part of the list, they're also at the top of sexual predators, not men. Thank goodness for TikTok and YouTube and Twitter for exposing it. According to Facebook's own statistics, over 90% of the accusations from women towards a significant other are unfounded by those women's own bragging. Isn't that amazing? 90% of the women who are speaking up about abuse have bragged about the fact that it wasn't even true. How many women every day do we get to see come across our timeline bragging about doing those things, or being in the process of doing those things and You just wait a couple of weeks and they'll brag about it later. Or they'll wait until after they've won a court date through slander and then they'll brag about it. Oh, girlfriend, all I had to do was pretend like he raped me and fucking they gave me everything. They hooked me up with the works. So there's one of them southeastern states decided that they were gonna make abortion illegal. This is late 90s, I think, early 2000s. And they talked about how there was an exception to the law. Sure, there was an abortion ban, but if your baby was a product of rape or incest, then you can turn it in. Well, what they didn't realize, these women who wanted to go have abortions, their boyfriend got them pregnant, and they wanted to go have an abortion, but it was now illegal. They just passed the law making it illegal, and these girls literally had to lie and say that they were raped in order to get their abortions. Now, what they didn't realize was that those abortion clinics are required to contact law enforcement and grill those girls about who it is that raped them. And we ended up in that state with the highest quantity of rape charges in their history by almost 3 times. Those girls really wanted their abortions bad. Most of them were basically tricked into believing that if they claimed they were raped, that they could get their abortion. That it was going to be a patient confidentiality thing. What they didn't pay attention to is that a lot of these girls were 14, 15, and 16-year-olds who had been sexually active with their boyfriends for a while. They still wanted to be with their boyfriends, were still telling their boyfriends they were in love with them. The boyfriends, well, imagine their surprise when the cops come knocking on their door and saying, hey, you're being charged with rape. And how many of those girls wouldn't tell on the person because she was in love with him? He didn't rape her. And she realized what a mistake she had made when she went to the clinic, claimed that she was raped, and then they wanted to know who raped her. When she wouldn't give up her boyfriend, well, then she starts getting grilled. They're not going to give her the abortion because in their eyes she wasn't raped. And of course, a DNA test will be able to tell if it's a product of incest. And no girl wants to go admit to that. No girl wants to go to a clinic and admit that she's pregnant with her father's kid. It'd be a lot easier in their minds, in their eyes, to go to the clinic and say that they were raped and hopefully the baby's removed than it would be for them to say, hey, my dad raped me. While you're painting Sean Schwartz as the 1 in 1,000 strangers who would rape a child or commit rape at all, while you pretend that I'm the 1 in 1,000 where a stranger killed somebody. 1 in 1,000 on both of those statistics, or around 1 in 1,000. Your chances of being raped or murdered by a complete and total stranger are next to nothing. You have a greater chance of winning the lottery than you do of being killed by a stranger. You have more of a chance of being raped by one of your parents than you do of dying in a car accident. You have more chance of being raped by your parents. You have more of a chance of being raped by one of your parents than you have of having a DUI in your lifetime. Do you know more people who have won the lottery or more people who have DUIs? I guarantee you know more people who have DUIs on their record. Anyway, it's time to go stink up the bathroom. There's a lot more female predators that come across our TV screen than male predators. But we make a much bigger deal about the male predators, don't we? We make a big deal about little things with male predators. We make a little deal out of a big thing when it comes to female predators. How many of the women who have spoken up on my channel have spoken up about the fact that they had female predators? Quite a few. How about we stop blaming everything on men when statistically women are more likely to be physical predators? They are more likely to kill their own children than anyone else. Bar none. Women are far more likely to kill their children than anyone else. When it comes to violent deaths against children, I don't understand how they can call any of these murders anything but violent. But apparently, poisoning someone to death is not considered violent. Women are 15 times more likely to poison their children to death than a man is. Mothers account for 31% of those. 31% of children who are violently murdered are murdered by their mother. 31% of those who are violently murdered are murdered by their father. That's 62% of all violent murders of children by one of the parents. And that's not even counting poisonings and drownings, because those are considered non-violent. I'm not sure if you've ever almost drowned, but that's pretty goddamn violent. And if you have almost drowned, as I have, you know that it's pretty goddamn violent. It's scary too. Suffocating your kid to death. It's called snuffing. Women are more likely to snuff their child to death with a pillow than a father is, by a lot. By a lot. And now, with a lot of the men that I've recorded speaking out about their female predators, and a lot of women on my channel speaking out about their female predators, many of these women with female predators who have told me about their female predators still want to push the things that their female predators did onto men. One woman wanted to actually make excuses, saying that the woman who molested her for literally years was justified in doing it because she was raped and molested by men for years when she was growing up. So she thought it was okay. And it's men's fault that she thought it was okay. So this woman who was raped by another woman still blamed men for it. She'd never been raped by a man. She'd never been molested by a man, by her own admission. But when she was speaking to me, she had such disdain for men. She wanted to tell me about all these horrible men that are always in the news. And if men weren't so horrible, they wouldn't always be in the news. But we get to see that women are in the news a lot more. We just make a far bigger deal of the men, don't we? We want to project that all men are predators. Less than 1% of men in the United States are rapists. Less than 1%. And yet, rape is projected onto all of us, as if every man in America is just born to be a rapist. Go fuck yourselves, you sick shits. Good to be rid of you. Thank you for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper, and your sister's too, and no victim left behind. Also, loyalty, above all else, except honor. Because without honor, there's no such thing as loyalty. People who are not honorable are loyal to no one. And there's a motorcyclist driving down the street without his fucking light on. What a goddamn idiot.